Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this video. And today we're going to be talking about the 1.5.1 firmware that Canon just released for the Canon R5 and the R6. Hopefully by the end of this video, you will have enough information to know whether or not you will want to upgrade this firmware or hold out for the next one that comes out, which is supposed to be in March from what Canon is saying. So a few weeks ago, the R3 received its firmware update that helped with a lot of the freezing that the camera was suffering from when using one of the autofocus modes. Now, a lot of people who own the R5s have also had that same issue and had been wondering when our version of the firmware was going to come out. Now, as of today, February 17th, that firmware was released. However, from a patch note standpoint, only solves one issue, and that is the freezing issue that the R5s and the R6s were having. Now, we don't know any undocumented patch notes until people start downloading and get to test this firmware. Once that happens, you should see people starting to report any issues they may be having, if anything's working better, if anything's working worse. Now, one of the other major issues R5 users have been experiencing since the 1.5 update is constant autofocus issues. A lot of people were downgrading their firmware after upgrading to 1.5 or choosing not to upgrade at all once they found out about this issue, and many of us have been desperately waiting for a fix to this. Now, in the 1.5.1 patch notes, if you read them, Canon does mention this issue and says that the next firmware they put out, that's going to be in mid to late March, should correct those issues and help improve the autofocus. What we don't yet know, however, is if there are any undocumented fixes for the autofocus in this current firmware. That's something, unfortunately, we're probably going to have to wait a week or so, for people to get it, start testing and reporting back results on whether or not this firmware does improve that at all. Now, if you're already on 1.5 and you're not experiencing any of these freezing issues, I would suggest waiting at least a week before upgrading, especially if you use your camera on a daily basis for work or anything like that. Now, the next thing to keep in mind with this firmware is it is a cumulative firmware. You do need every other firmware before it in order to upgrade. So if you're somebody on 1.4, you can't just skip 1.5 and go to 1.5.1. So if you were someone who stayed on 1.4 because of the autofocus issues, I do suggest you stay there temporarily unless you are being heavily affected by this freezing bug. If not, stay put, wait for people to kind of say what this firmware has done, or wait for the next firmware that specifically is going to go towards the autofocus issues. I personally will be keeping a close eye on any issues with this firmware, and if in a week or so anything pops up, I will be doing a video on it. If you don't see any video from me, that means the firmware probably went pretty seamless and didn't have anything negative to really report back. If you've had any weird issues with your camera over the last few firmwares, please let me know about them down in the comments below. That's really it for this video. I just wanted to do something quick to kind of let you guys who watch my channel know what all was in the firmware so you can make a better educated decision on whether or not you want to upgrade. If this video was helpful to you, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel. And with that said, until next time.